Hello, guys. Welcome to my channel. And we'll get started with the Armor of God prayer. So just let me do something for a second. All right, we are live. Okay, the Armor of God prayer. You can find it in Ephesians 6, but you also can look it up on any search engine. The Armor of God. I put on and stand firm with the belt of truth buckled around my waist. I am safe and secure with the breastplate of righteousness, guarding my heart from evil, helping me live a life that honors you. I diligently put on the gospel shoes of peace, willing to go wherever you ask of me. I take and stand behind the shield of faith, protected against Satan's fiery darts of doubt, fear, lies, and deceit. Now on my head I place the helmet of salvation, keeping my mind on you. I grab hold in my hand of the sword of the Spirit, the word of God, sharp and true. I'm prepared to live today in spiritual victory in Jesus' name. Amen, folks. Amen. Okay, we're going to start the Jesus, the Son of Man, tonight with Rivka, the bride of Cana. I probably already did this one, but I'm just going to reread it again, guys. All right, let's start. Hi, Jane. How's everything? And Mary, I had a few of my other channels that I moderate for, at least one of them. If you ever want to go over to the Truth Factor, she's really good. She does pray a lot for people. And go over to God's Signpost. I asked, I forget her name, but she's usually in here too. Cleo, she knows who you are, Mary. It's like, I wish we could do something for you in that camper of yours instead of being in that camper with those two portable heaters. I just want you warm and safe. And I know God's got you. So let's just pray for Mary to get a better place to live so she can be warm and comfortable, because Jesus would want that for everybody, regardless of where we are. And Mary, I love you very, very much. And I do have to say, one of my siblings' birthday is today, and I'd like to wish them a happy birthday. Their name is MJ. It's like, I don't see MJ very often because they're in Arizona. So, hi, girl dad. It's like, I do try to get to your channel and watch the cooking. It's really awesome. Okay, we're going to read Rivka, the bride of Cana. And like I said, I might have read this the last time we were in the book of... Oh, that's good. That is good, Mary. Wyoming. Lord, let Wyoming have all the nice weather for the rest of the year, please. So Mary can be very comfortable and not have to worry about anything in that camper of hers. Okay. Rivka, the bride of Cana. This happened before he was known to the people. I was in my mother's garden, tending the rose bushes, when he stopped at our gate. And he said, I am thirsty. Will you give me water from your well? I ran and brought the silver cup and filled it with water, and I poured it into it a few drops from the jasmine vial. And he drank deep and was pleased. Then he looked into my eyes and said, my blessings shall be upon you. When he said that, I felt as it were a gust of wind rushing through my body, and I was no longer shy. And I said, Sir, I am betrothed to a man of Cana in Galilee, and I shall be married on the 4th day of the coming week. Will you not come to my wedding and grace my marriage with your presence? And he answered, I will come, my child. Mind you, he said, my child, yet he was but a youth, and I was nearly 20. Then he walked on down the road, and I stood at the gate of our garden until my mother called me into the house. On the 4th day of the following week, I was taken to the house of my bridegroom and given in marriage. And Jesus came, and with him his mother and his brother James. And they sat around the wedding board with all our guests, while my maiden comrades sang the wedding songs of Solomon the king. And Jesus ate our food and drank our wine, and smiled upon me and upon the others. And he heeded all the songs of the lover bringing his beloved into his tent, and of the young vineyard keeper who loved the daughter of the Lord of the vineyard, and led her to his mother's house, and of the prince who met the beggar maiden, and bore her to his realm, and crowned her with the crown of his fathers. And it seemed as if he were listening to yet other songs also, which I could not hear. At sundown, the father of my bridegroom came to the mother of Jesus and whispered, saying, "We have no more wine for our guests, and the day is not yet over." And Jesus heard the whispering, and he said, "The cupbearer knows that there is still more wine." And so it was indeed, and as long as the guest remained, there was a fine wine for all who would drink. Presently, Jesus began to speak with us. He spoke of the wonders of the earth and heaven, of sky flowers that bloom when the night is upon the earth, and of earth flowers that blossom when the day hides the stars. And he told us stories and parables, and his voice enchanted us, so that we gazed upon him as if seeing visions, and we forgot the cup and the plate. And as I listened to him, it seemed as if I were in a land distant and unknown. After a while, one of the guests said to the father of my bridegroom, "You have kept the best wine till the end of the feast. Other hosts do not so." And all believed that Jesus had wrought a miracle, that they should have more wine and better at the end of the wedding feast than at the beginning. I too thought that Jesus had poured the wine, but I was not astonished, for in his voice I had already listened to miracles. And afterwards, indeed, his voice remained close to my heart, even until I had been delivered of my firstborn child. And now, even to this day, in our village and in the villages nearby, the word of our guest is still remembered, and they say, "The Spirit of Jesus of Nazareth is the best and the oldest wine." And that is it for that one. And we're doing the Persian philosopher in Damascus is next. "I cannot tell the fate of this man, nor can I say what shall befall his disciples. A seed hidden in the heart of an apple is an orchard invisible. Yet should that seed fall upon a rock, it will come to naught. But this I say, the ancient God of Israel is harsh and relentless. Israel should have another God, one who is gentle and forgiving, who would look down upon them with pity, one who would descend with rays of the sun and walk on the path of their limitations, rather than sit forever in the judgment seat to weigh their faults and measure their wrongdoings. Israel should bring forth a God whose heart is not a jealous heart, and whose memory of their shortcomings is brief, one who would not avenge himself upon them, even to the third and the fourth generation. Man here in Syria is like man in all lands. He would look into the mirror of his own understanding, and therein find his deity. He would fashion the gods after his own likeness, and worship that which reflects his own image. In truth, man prays to his deeper longing, that it may rise and fulfill the sum of his desires. There is no depth beyond the soul of a man, and the soul is the deep that calls upon unto itself, for there is no other voice to speak and there are no other ears to hear. Even we in Persia would see our faces in the discs of the sun and our bodies dancing in the fire that we kindle upon the altars. Now the God of Jesus, whom he called Father, would not be a stranger unto the people of Jesus, and he would fulfill their desires. The gods of Egypt have cast off their burdens of stone and fled to the Nubian desert to be free among those who are still free from knowing. The gods of Greece and Rome are vanishing into their own sunset. They were too much like men to live in ecstasy of men. The groves in which their magic was born have been cut down by the axes of the Atlanteans and the Alexandrians. And in this land also the high places are made low by the lawyers of Beirut and the young hermits of Antioch. Only the old women and the weary men seek the temples of their forefathers. Only the exhausted at the end of the road seek its beginning. But this man, Jesus of Nazareth, this Nazarene, he has spoken of a God too vast to be unlike the soul of any man, too knowing to punish, too loving to remember the sins of his creatures. And this God of the Nazarene shall pass over the threshold of the children of the earth, and he shall sit at their hearth, and he shall be a blessing within their walls, and a light upon their path. But my God is the God of Zoroaster, the God who is the sun in the sky and the fire upon the earth, and the light in the bosom of man, and I am content. I need no other God. And that was a Persian philosopher in Damascus, folks. And here is David and one of his followers. I did not know the meaning of his discourses or his parables until he was no longer among us. Nay, I did not understand until his words took living forms before my eyes and fashioned themselves into bodies that walk in the procession of my own day. Let me tell you this, on a night as I sat in my house pondering and remembering his words and his deeds, that I might inscribe them in a book, 3 thieves entered my house, and though I knew they came to rob me of my goods, I was too mindful of what I was doing to meet them with the sword, or even to say, "What do you here?" But I continued writing my remembrances of the master. And when the thieves had gone, then I remembered his saying, "He who would take your cloak, let him take your other cloak also." And I understood. As I sat recording his words, no man have stopped me, even were he to have carried away all my possessions. For though I would guard my possessions and also my person, I know where lies the greater treasure. And that is David, one of his followers, possibly King David. Next one is Luke. Jesus despised and scorned the hypocrites, and his wrath was like a tempest that scourged them. His voice was thunder in their ears, and he cowed them. In their fear of him, they sought his death, and like moles in the dark earth, they worked to undermine his footsteps. But he fell not into their snares. He laughed at them, for well he knew that the spirit shall not be mocked, nor shall it be taken in the pitfall. He held a mirror in his hand, and therein he saw the sluggard and the limping, and those who stagger and fall by the roadside on the way to the summit. And he pitied them all. He would even have raised them to his stature, and he would have carried their burden. Nay, he would have bid their weakness lean on his strength. He did not utterly condemn the liar or the thief or the murderer, but he did not utterly condemn the hypocrite, whose face is masked and whose hand is gloved. Often have I pondered on the heart that shelters all who come from the wasteland to its sanctuary. Yet again, the hypocrite is closed and sealed. On a day as we rested with him in the garden of pomegranates, I said to him, "Master, you forgave and consoled the sinner and all the weak and infirm, save only the hypocrite alone. And he said, you have chosen your words well when you called sinners weak and infirm. I do forgive them their weakness of body and their infirmity of spirit, for their failings have been laid upon them by their forefathers, or by the greed of their neighbors. But I tolerate not the hypocrite, because he himself lays a yoke upon the guiltless and the yieldling. Weaklings, whom you call sinners, are like the featherless young that fall from the nest. The hypocrite is a vulture waiting on a rock for the death of the prey. Weaklings are men lost in a desert, but the hypocrite is not lost. He knows the way, yet he laughs between the sand and the wind. For this cause I do not receive him. Thus our master spoke, and I did not understand, but I understand now. Then the hypocrites of the land laid hands upon him, and they judged him. And in doing so, they deemed themselves justified, for they cited the law of Moses in the Sanhedrin in witness and evidence against him. And they who break the law at the rise of every dawn and break it again at sunset brought about his death. Now, Matthew, the Sermon on the Mount. One harvest day, Jesus called us and his other friends to the hills. The earth was fragrant. The earth was fragrant, and like the daughter of a king at her wedding feast, she wore all her jewels, and the sky was her bridegroom. Hon, I need more water for my tea.
Yeah.
When we reached the heights, Jesus stood still in the grove of laurels, and he said, rest here. Quiet your mind and tune your heart, for I have much to tell you. Then we reclined on the grass, and the summer flowers were all about us, and Jesus sat in our midst. And Jesus said, blessed are the serene in spirit. Blessed are they who are not held by possessions, for they shall be free. Blessed are they who remember their pain, and in their pain await their glory. Blessed are they who hunger after truth and beauty, for their hunger shall bring bread, and their thirst cool water. Blessed are the kindly, for they shall be consoled by their own kindness. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall be one with God. Blessed are the merciful, for mercy shall be in their portion. Blessed are the peacemakers, for their spirit shall dwell above the battle, and they shall turn the potter's field into a garden. Blessed are they who are hunted, for they shall be swift of foot, and they shall be winged. Rejoice and be joyful, for you have found the kingdom of heaven within you. The singers of old were persecuted when they sang of that kingdom. You too shall be persecuted, and therein lies your honor, and therein your reward. You are the salt of the earth. Should the salt lose its savor, wherewith shall the food of man's heart be salted? You are the light of the world. Put not that light under a bushel. Let it shine rather from the summit to those who seek the city of God. Think not I came to destroy the laws of the scribes and the Pharisees, for my days among you are numbered, and my words are counted. And I have but hours in which to fulfill another law and reveal a new covenant. You have been told that you shall not kill, but I say unto you, you shall not be angry without a cause. You have been charged by the ancients to bring your calf and your lamb and your dove to the temple and slay them upon the altar, that the nostrils of God may feed upon the odor of their fat, and that you may be forgiven your failings. But I say unto you, Would you give God that which was his own from the beginning? And would you appease him whose throne is above the silent deep and whose arms encircle space? Rather, seek out your brother and be reconciled unto him ere you seek the temple, and be a loving giver unto your neighbor. For in the soul of these God has builded a temple that shall not be destroyed, and in their heart he has raised an altar that shall never perish. You have been told, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, resist not evil, for resistance is food unto evil, and makes it strong. And only the weak would revenge themselves. The strong of soul forgive, and it is honor in the injured to forgive. Only the fruitful tree is shaken or stoned for food. Be not heedful of the morrow, but rather gaze upon today, for sufficient for today is the miracle thereof. Be not overmindful of yourself when you give, but be mindful of the necessity. For every giver himself receives from the Father, and that much more abundantly. And give to each according to his need, for the Father gives not salt to the thirsty, nor a stone to the hungry, nor milk to the weaned. And give not that which is holy to dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine. For with such gifts you mock them, and they also shall mock your gift. And in their hate would fain destroy you. Lay not up for yourselves treasures that corrupt or that thieves may steal away. Lay up rather treasure which shall not corrupt nor be stolen. Hi, Dad. And those whose lovingness increases when many eyes behold it. For where your treasure is, your heart is also. You have been told that the murderer shall be put to the sword, that the thief shall be crucified, and the harlot stoned. But I say unto you, that you are not free from the wrongdoings of the murderer, and the thief, and the harlot. And when they are punished in the body, your own spirit is darkened. Verily, no crime is committed by one man or one woman. All crimes are committed by all. And he who pays the penalty may be breaking a link in the chain that hangs upon your own ankles. Perhaps he is paying with his sorrow the price for your passing joy. Thus spoke Jesus, and it was in my desire to kneel down and worship him. Yet in my shyness I could not move nor speak a word. But at last I spoke, and I said, I would pray this moment, yet my tongue is heavy. Teach me to pray. And Jesus said, when you would pray, let your longing pronounce the words. It is in my longing now to pray thus: Our Father in heaven and our Father in earth and heaven, sacred is thy name. Thy will be done with us, even as in space. Give us of thy bread sufficient for the day. In thy compassion, forgive us and enlarge us to forgive one another. Guide us toward thee and stretch down thy hands to us in darkness. For thine is the kingdom, and in thee is our power and our fulfillment. And it was now evening, and Jesus walked down from the hills, and all of us following him. And as I followed, I was repeating his prayer and remembering all that he had said. For I knew that the word that had fallen like flakes that day must set and grow firm like crystals, and that the wings that had fluttered above our heads were to beat the earth like iron hooves. Next one is John, the son of Zebedee. You have remarked that some of us call Jesus the Christ, and some the Word, and others call him the Nazarene. and still others, the Son of Man. I will try to make these names clear in the light that is given me. The Christ, he who was in the Ancient of Days, is the flame of God that dwells in the spirit of man. He is the breath of life that visits us and takes unto himself a body like our bodies. He is the will of the Lord. He is the first word which would speak with our voice and live in our ear that we may heed and understand. As the word of the Lord our God builded a house of sorry guys. As the word of the Lord our God builded a house of flesh and bones, and was man like unto you and myself. For we could not hear the song of the bodiless wind, nor see our greater self walking in the midst. Many times the Christ has come to the world, and he has walked many lands, and always he has been deemed a stranger and a madman. Yet the sound of his voice descended never to emptiness, for the memory of man keeps that which his mind takes no care to keep. This is the Christ, the innermost and the height, who walks with man towards eternity. Have you not heard of him at the crossroads of India, and in the land of the Magi, and upon the sands of Egypt? And here in your north country, your bards of old sang of Prometheus, the firebringer, he who was the desire of men fulfilled, the caged hope made free, and of Orpheus, who came with a voice and a lyre to quicken the spirit in beast and man. And know you not of Mithra the king, and of Zoroaster the prophet of the Persians, who woke from man's ancient sleep and stood at the bed of our dreaming? We ourselves become men anointed when we meet in the temple invisible, once every 1,000 years, when then comes one forth embodied, and at his coming our silence turns into singing. Yet our ears turn not always to listening, nor our eyes to seeing. Jesus the Nazarene was born and reared like ourselves. His mother and father were like our parents, and he was a man. But the Christ, the Word, who was in the beginning, the Spirit, who would have us live our fuller life, came unto Jesus, and it was with him. And the Spirit was first hand of the Lord, and Jesus was the harp. The Spirit was the psalm, and Jesus was the tune thereof. And Jesus, the man of Nazareth, was the host and the mouthpiece of the Christ, who walked with us in the sun, and who called us his friends. In those days in the hills of Galilee and her valleys heard naught but his voice. And I was a youth then, and trod in his path and pursued his footprints. I pursued his footprints and trod in his path to hear the words of the Christ from the lips of Jesus of Galilee. Now you would know why some of us call him the Son of Man. He himself desired to be called by that name, for he knew the hunger and the thirst of man, and he beheld man seeking after his greater self. The Son of Man was Christ the gracious, who would be with all of us. He was Jesus the Nazarene, who would lead all his brothers to the Anointed One, even to the Word which was in the beginning with God. In my heart dwells Jesus of Galilee, the man above men, the poet who makes us poets of all of us, the Spirit who knocks at our door that we may wake and rise and walk out to meet truth, naked and unencumbered. The next one is a young priest in Capernaum. Okay, I gotta definitely write that one down because dang. All right, the young priest in Capernaum. He was a magician, warp and woof, and a sorcerer, a man who bewildered the simple by charms and incantations. And he juggled with the words of our prophets and with the sanctities of our forefathers. Aye, He even bade the dead be his witness, and the voiceless graves his forerunners and authority. He sought the women of Jerusalem and the women of the countryside with the cunning of the spider that seeks to fly, and they were caught in his web. For women are weak and empty-headed. No, we're not. And they follow the man who would comfort their unspent passion with soft and tender words. Were it not for these women, infirm and possessed by his evil spirit, his name would have been erased from the memory of man. And who were the men who followed him? They were of the horde that are yoked and trodden down. In their ignorance and fear, they would never have rebelled against their rightful masters. But when he promised them high stations in his kingdom of mirage, they yielded to his fantasy as clay yields to the potter. Know you not, the slave in his dreaming would always be the master, and the weakling would be a lion. The Galilean was a conjurer and a deceiver, a man who forgave the sins of all sinners, that he might hear Hail and Hosanna from their unclean mouths, and who fed the faint of heart of the hopeless and the wretched, that he might have ears for his voice, and a return at his command. He broke the Sabbath with those who break, that he might gain the support of the lawless. And he spoke ill of our high priest, that he might win attention in the Sanhedrim, and by opposition increase his fame. I have said often that I hated that man. I hate him more than I hate the Romans who govern our country. Even his coming was from Nazareth, a town cursed by our prophets, a dunghill of the Gentiles, from which no good shall ever proceed. That was mean for that dude to say that about Christ. Okay, a rich Levi in the neighborhood of Nazareth. He was a good carpenter. The doors he fashioned were never unlocked by thieves, and the windows he made were always ready to open to the east wind and to the west. And he made chests of cedar wood, polished and enduring, and plows and pitchforks, strong and yielded to the hand. And he carved lecterns for our synagogues. He carved them out of the golden mulberry, and on both sides of the support, where the sacred book lies, he chiseled wings outspreading, and under the support, heads of bulls and doves and large-eyed deer. All this he wrought in the manner of the Chaldeans and the Greeks, but there was that in his skill which was neither Chaldean nor Greek. Now this my house was builded by many hands 30 years ago. I sought builders and carpenters in all the towns of Galilee. They had each the skill and the art of building, and I was pleased and satisfied with all they did. But come now and behold two doors and a window that were fashioned by Jesus of Nazareth. They, in their stability, mock all else in my house. See you not that these two doors are different from all other doors? And this window opening to the east, is it not different from other windows? All my doors and windows are yielding to the years, save these which he made. They alone stand strong against the elements. And see those crossbeams, how he placed them. And these nails, how they are driven from one side of the board and then caught and fastened so firmly upon the other side. And what is passing strange is that the laborer who was worthy the wages of two men received but the wage of one man, and that same laborer now is deemed a prophet in Israel. Had I known then that this youth with saw and plane was a prophet, I would have begged him to speak rather than work, and then I would have overpaid him for his words. And now I still have many men working in my house and fields. How shall I know the man whose own hand is upon his tool from the man upon whose hand God lays his hand? Yeah, how shall I know God's hand? Dad, I said happy birthday to MJ in the beginning of my stream, so I don't know if you could get him to watch it, but I would love to have them say hi sometime to me if they'd like to. I still love him regardless of what he's done. And I know he chose a girl's name, but I still love him. And that's how we all should be, no matter what people do in any family. We all should love our siblings, which I do. I love each and every one of my siblings, my 2 sisters and my 3 brothers. They are all very close to my heart, but Jesus is within my heart. And my parents are also within my heart too, because I love both my parents. Okay, next one. A shepherd in South Lebanon. It was late summer when he and 3 other men first walked upon that road yonder. It was evening, and he stopped and stood there at the end of the pasture. I was playing upon my flute, and my flock was gazing all around me. When he stopped, I rose and walked over and stood before him. And he asked me, "Where is the grave of Elijah? Is it not somewhere near this place?" And I answered him, "It is here, sir, underneath that great heap of stones. Even unto this day, every passerby brings a stone and places it upon that heap." And he thanked me and walked away, and his friends walked behind him. And after 3 days, Gamaliel, who was also a shepherd, said to me that the man who had passed by was a prophet in Judea, but I did not believe him. Yet I thought of that man for many a moon. When spring came, Jesus passed once more by the pasture, and this time he was alone. I was not playing on my flute that day, for I had lost a sheep, and I was bereaved, and my heart was downcast within me. As I walked toward him and stood still before him, for I desired to be comforted. And he looked upon me and said, "You do not play upon your flute this day. Whence is the sorrow in your eyes?" And I answered, "A sheep from among my sheep is lost. I have sought her everywhere, but I have found her not, and I know not where she is." And he was silent for a moment. Then he smiled upon me and said, "Wait here a while, and I will find your sheep." And he walked away and disappeared among the hills. After an hour he returned, and my sheep was close beside him. And as he stood before me, the sheep looked up into his face, even as I was looking. Then I embraced her in gladness. And he put his hands upon my shoulder and said, "From this day you shall love the sheep more than any other in your flock, for she was lost, and now she is found." And again I embraced my sheep in gladness, and she came close to me, and I was silent. But when I raised my head to thank Jesus, he was already walking off, and I had not the courage to follow him. John the Baptist to one of his disciples. I am not silent in this foul hole while the voice of Jesus is heard on the battlefield. I am not to be held nor confined while he is free. They tell me the vipers are coiling around his loins, but I answer, the vipers shall awaken his strength, and he shall crush them with his heel. I am only the thunder of his lightning, though I spoke first. His was the word and the purpose. They caught me unwarned. Perhaps they will lay hands on him also, yet not before he has pronounced his word in full, and he shall overcome them. His chariot shall pass over them, and the hooves of his horses shall trample them, and he shall be triumphant. They shall go forth with lance and sword, but he shall meet them with the power of the Spirit. His blood shall run upon the earth, but they themselves shall know the wounds and the pain thereof, and they shall be baptized in their tears until they are cleansed of their sins. Their legions shall march forward, his cities with rams of iron. But on their way they shall be drowned in the river Jordan, and his walls and his towers shall rise higher, and the shields of his warriors shall shine brighter in the sun. They say I am in league with him, and that our design is to urge the people to rise in revolt against the kingdom of Judea. I answer, and would that I had flames for words. If they deem this pit of iniquity a kingdom, let it then fall into destruction and be no more. Let it go the way of Sodom and Gomorrah, and let this race be forgotten by God, and this land be turned to ashes. I, behind these prison walls, I am indeed an ally to Jesus of Nazareth, and he shall lead my armies, horse and foot, and I myself, though a captain, am not worthy to loose the strings of his sandals. Go to him and repeat my words, and then in my name beg him for comfort and blessing. I shall not be here long. At night, twixt waking and waking, I feel slow feet with measured steps, treading above this body. And when I hearken, I hear the rain falling upon my grave. Go to Jesus and say that John of Kedron, whose soul is filled with sorrows and then emptied, again prays for him while the gravedigger stands close by, and the swordsman outstretches his hand for his wages. And the next one is Joseph of Arimathea. You would know the primal aim of Jesus, and I would fain to tell you, but none can touch with fingers the life of the blessed vine, nor see the sap that feeds the branches. And though I have eaten of the grapes and have tasted the new vintage at the winepress, I cannot tell you all. I can only relate what I know of him. Our master and our beloved lived but 3 prophet seasons. They were the spring of his song, the summer of his ecstasy, and the autumn of his passion, and each season was 1,000 years. The spring of his song was spent in Galilee. It was there that he gathered his lovers about him, and it was on the shores of the blue lake that he first spoke of the Father, and of our release and our freedom. By the lake of Galilee we lost ourselves to find our way to the Father. And oh, the little loss that turned to such gain. It was there the angels sang in our ears and bade us to leave the arid land for the garden of heart's desire. He spoke of fields and green pastures, of the slopes of Lebanon, where the white lilies are heedless of the caravans passing in the dust of the valley. He spoke of the wild briar that smiles in the sun and yields its incense to the passing breeze. And he would say, the lilies and the briar live but a day, yet that day is eternity spent in freedom. And one evening, as we sat beside the stream, he said, behold the brook and listen to its music. Forever shall it seek the sea, and though it is forever seeking, it sings its mystery from noon to noon. Would that you seek the Father as the brook seeks the sea. Then came the summer of his ecstasy, and the June of his love was upon us. He spoke of naught then but the other man, the neighbor, the road fellow, the stranger, and our childhood playmates. He spoke of the traveler journeying from the east to Egypt, of the plowman coming home with his oxen at eventide, of the chance guest led by dusk to our door. And he would say, your neighbor is your unknown self made visible. His face shall be reflected in your still waters, and if you gaze therein, you shall behold your own countenance. Should you listen in the night, you shall hear him speak, and his words shall be the throbbing of your own heart. Be unto him that which you would have him be unto you. This is my law, and I shall say it unto you, and unto your children, and they go unto their children until time is spent, and generations are no more. And on another day he said, you shall not be yourself alone. You are in the deeds of other men, and they, though unknowing, are with you all your days. They shall not commit a crime, and your hand not be with their hand. They shall not fall down, but that you shall also fall down. And they shall not rise, but that you shall rise with them. Their road to the sanctuary is your road, and when they seek the wasteland, you too seek with them. You and your neighbor are two seeds sown in the field. Together you grow together. You shall sway in the wind, and neither of you shall claim the field. For a seed on its way to growth claims not even its own ecstasy. Today I am with you, tomorrow I go westward. But ere I go, I say unto you that your neighbor is your unknown self made visible. Seek him in love that you may know yourself, for only in that knowledge shall you become my brothers. Then came the autumn of his passion, and he spoke to us of freedom even as he had spoken in Galilee in the spring of his song. But now his words sought our deeper understanding. He spoke of leaves that sing only when blown upon the wind, and of man as a cup filled by the ministering angel of the day to quench the thirst of another angel. Yet whether that cup is full or empty, it shall stand crystalline upon the board of the Most High. He said, you are the cup, and you are the wine. Drink of yourselves to the dregs, or else remember me, and you shall be quenched. And on our way to the southward, he said, Jerusalem, which stands in pride upon the height, shall descend to the depths of Jahannam, Jahannum, Jahannam, the dark valley, and in the midst of her desolation I shall stand alone. The temples shall fall to dust, and around the portico you shall hear the cry of widows and orphans, and the men in their haste to escape shall not know the faces of their brothers, for fear shall be upon all of them. But even there, if two of you shall meet and utter my name, and look to the west, you shall see me, and these my words shall again visit your ears. And when we reached the hill of Bethany, he said, let us go to Jerusalem. The city awaits us. I will enter the gate riding upon a colt, and I will speak to the multitude. Many are there who would chain me, and many who would put out my flame, but in my death you shall find life, and you shall be free. They shall seek the breath that hovers betwixt heart and mind, as the swallows hover between the field and his nest. But my breath has already escaped them, and they shall not overcome me. The walls that my Father has built around me shall not fall down, and the acre he has made holy shall not be profaned. When the dawn shall come, the sun will crown my head, and I shall be with you to face the day, and that day shall be long, and the world shall not see its eventide. The scribes and the Pharisees say the earth is thirsty for my blood. I would quench the thirst of the earth with my blood, but the drops shall rise, oak trees and maple, and the east wind shall carry the acorns to other lands. And then he said, Judea would have a king, and she would march against the legions of Rome. I shall not be her king. The diadems of Zion were fashioned for lesser brows, and the ring of Solomon is small for this finger. Behold my hand. See you not that it is over strong to hold a scepter, and over sinewed to wield a common sword? Nay, I shall not command Syrian flesh against Roman, but you with my words shall wake that city, and my spirit shall speak to her second dawn. My words shall be an invisible army with horses and chariots, and without axe or spear I shall conquer the priests of Jerusalem and the Caesars. I shall not sit upon a throne where slaves have sat and ruled other slaves, nor will I rebel against the sons of Italy, but I shall be a tempest in their sky and a song in their soul, and I shall be remembered they shall call me Jesus the Anointed. These things he said outside the walls of Jerusalem before he entered the city, and his words are graven as with chisels. Nathaniel, I got 10 minutes. They say that Jesus of Nazareth was humble and meek. They say that though he was just a man and righteous, he was a weakling and was often confounded by the strong and the powerful, and that when he stood before men of authority, he was but a lamb among the lions. But I say that Jesus had authority over men, and that he knew his power and proclaimed it among the hills of Galilee and in the cities of Judea and Phoenicia. I don't know. What man yielding and soft would say, I am life, and I am the way to truth? What man meek and lowly would say, I am in God our Father, and our God the Father is in me? What man unmindful of his own strength would say, he who believes not in me believes not in this life, nor in the life everlasting? What man uncertain of tomorrow would proclaim, your world shall pass away and be naught, but scattered ashes ere my words shall pass away? Was he doubtful of himself when he said to those who would confound him with a harlot, he who is without sin, let him cast the first stone? Did he fear authority when he drove the money changers from the court of the temple, though they were licensed by the priests? Were his wings shorn when he cried out aloud, my kingdom is above your earthly kingdoms? Was he seeking shelter in words when he repeated again and yet again, destroy this temple and I will rebuild it in 3 days? Was it a coward who shook his hand in the face of the authorities and pronounced them liars, low, filthy, and degenerate? Shall a man bold enough to say these things to those who ruled Judea be deemed meek and humble? Nay, the eagle builds not his nest in the weeping willow, and the lion seeks not his den among the ferns. I am sickened, and the bowels within me stir and rise, when I hear the faint-hearted call Jesus humble and meek, that they may justify their own faint-heartedness, and when the downtrodden for comfort and companionship speak of Jesus as a worm shining by their side. Yeah, my heart is sickened by such men. It is the mighty hunter I would preach, and the mountainous spirit unconquerable. And let's see if I can do, I can do Saba of Antioch. This day I heard Saul of Tartarus preaching the Christ unto the Jews of this city. He calls himself Paul now, the apostle to the Gentiles. I knew him in my youth, and in those days he was persecuted the friends of the Nazarene. Well do I remember his satisfaction when his fellows stoned the radiant youth called Stephen. This Paul is indeed a strange man. His soul is not the soul of a free man. At times he seems like an animal in the forest, hunted and wounded, seeking a cave wherein he would hide his pain from the world. He speaks not of Jesus, nor does he repeat his words. He preaches the Messiah, whom the prophets of old had foretold. And though he himself is a learned Jew, he addresses his fellow Jews in Greek, and his Greek is halting, and he ill chooses his words. But he is a man of hidden powers, and his presence is affirmed by those who gather around him. And at times he assures them of what he himself is not assured. We who know Jesus and heard his discourses say that he taught men how to break the chains of bondage, that he might be free from his yesterdays. But Paul is forging chains for the man of tomorrow. He would strike with his own hammer upon the anvil in the name of one whom he does not know, the Nazarene, who would have us live the hour in passion and ecstasy. The man of Tartarus would have us be mindful of laws recorded in the ancient books. Jesus gave his breath to the breathless dead. And in my lone nights, I believe and I understand When he sat at the board, he told stories that gave happiness to the feasters and spiced with his joy the meat and the wine. But Paul would prescribe our loaf and our cup. Suffer me now to turn my eyes the other way. And that's going to be it for the night, guys. I'm going to read the Armor of God prayer so we can get out of here. And next Sunday, I know a lot of you guys some of you guys don't watch the Super Bowl. We will be reading more of this by Alexander Pagani. And I am so glad that he watched my stream and he commented on it. So I am glad, and I'm hoping he'll comment again after Super Bowl Sunday, because I know all the guys usually watch the Super Bowl. So, all right, the armor of God. It is in Ephesians 6, but you can look it up on any search engine, guys. The armor of God. I put on and stand firm with the belt of truth buckled around my waist. I'm safe and secure with the breastplate of righteousness, guarding my heart from evil, helping me live a life that honors you. I diligently put on the gospel shoes of peace, willing to go wherever you ask of me. I take and stand behind the shield of faith, protected against Satan's fiery darts of doubt, fear, lies, and deceit. Yep. Go say the rosary. Love you, Dad. I take and stand behind the shield of faith, protected against Satan's fiery darts of doubt, fear, lies, and deceit. Now on my head I place the helmet of salvation, keeping my mind on you. I grab hold in my hand of the sword of the Spirit, the word of God, sharp and true. I'm prepared to live today in spiritual victory in Jesus' name. Amen, folks. Amen. I'll see you there, Mary. So thank you. You guys have a blessed night. Stay warm out there for everybody that's in this cold weather. Thank you. Remember, Yeshua loves everybody. He does not exclude everybody. Love you. See you guys in the next video. Bye.